We got a problem.
After years of trying to stay relevant by trading for Blake Griffin years ago, the Detroit Pistons finally did the right thing and officially started a rebuild. Every team in the league has talent, but the Pistons probably had the least amount of talent going into last season. When you have a team full of young players, eventually those guys need a ton of NBA minutes and training before they become consistent and impactful in the league. Everyone knew that Blake Griffin was a shell of his former self years ago, and his presence was getting in the way of a few young guys that needed to develop their games. The Pistons front office and coaches needed to be able to properly evaluate them to see if they could be part of the future plans. Blake Griffin had a big contract, and he wasn't producing, so it really didn't make sense for him to be out there. The Pistons signed Jerami Grant in free agency that summer, and they also selected forward Saddiq Bey and Sekou Doumbouya in back-to-back drafts. Griffin played his last game with the Pistons on February 12th before the team bought his contract out 3 weeks later. The plan for this team was not to make the playoffs. That was unrealistic. It was about the progress and development of players like Killian, Saddiq Bey, Isaiah Stewart, and a couple other guys. This team was not built to win consistently throughout the year last season. Not only did the Pistons finish last in the Eastern Conference, but this team was also the worst road team in the NBA last season. In 36 road games, they only won 7, failing to win consecutive road games all season. Only 2 of the Pistons' wins on the road last season came against playoff teams. This team needed a franchise player, and they tried to trade for one 3 years ago, and that definitely didn't work out. But with the luck of the ping pong balls, the Pistons have finally found their franchise cornerstone they've been lacking for a long time. For the first time since 1970, the Pistons had the #1 pick. And this was definitely the year you wanted to have the #1 pick. Cade Cunningham is a Detroit Piston, the #1 overall pick, aka Motorcade. He has a rare combination of size, versatility, skill level, and basketball IQ that every team looks for in their best player. He's a big guard standing around 6'7", with a wingspan over 7 feet. He's able to control the pace of the game and plays well beyond his years. He's got the handles and strength to get to his spots. Cunningham has a veteran presence about him, and he plays with great poise. His summer league performance should make Pistons fans feel good about the future of the team. He certainly passed the eye test. The #1 overall pick looked comfortable for the most part, and he made an impact on both ends of the court. The majority of his field goal makes came from 3-point range and at the basket. He averaged just under 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 steals on 43% from the field. He was a 40% 3-point shooter at Oklahoma State, and he had no trouble adjusting to the NBA 3-point line, hitting 50% of his 26 attempts from beyond the arc. While he didn't put up great assist numbers, he did flash his playmaking ability at times, and you could see him improving that part of his game once he get used to playing with his teammates. He and Jalen Green are the clear frontrunners for the Rookie of the Year award, but I believe Cade has a better chance because he's the point guard and will have the ball in his hands a lot more than Jalen will. And also I believe Jalen has more talent around him, which will give Cade the need to put up more shots on average. Last year the Pistons also drafted a point guard in the top 10 in Killian. And it's going to be interesting to see how he fit with Cade Cunningham on the roster. Now Cade can play multiple positions, but head coach Dwayne Casey will obviously want the ball in his hands a lot more than anybody else on the team. Hayes had a very underwhelming rookie year. He was very inefficient when he was on the court, and it looked like he wasn't quite ready to be a starter in this league just yet. He only played 26 games because of a hip injury that caused him to miss the majority of the season. In those 26 games, he averaged just under 7 points per game on 35% from the field and 27% from 3. And when he was able to play, Hayes did get a decent amount of minutes. He averaged 26 minutes per game in his rookie year, and he actually started the season as a starting point guard. So he got the opportunities to show what he could do. But unfortunately, the NBA game looked too fast for him in his rookie year. The Pistons' second round pick in the same draft, Saban Lee, plays so much better than Hayes. I predict that the Pistons will eventually put Killian Hayes on the trading block because I believe he's a bad fit with the franchise player, and other players like Saban Lee will end up proving to be a better option than Hayes this upcoming season. Of all the misery the team and the fans had to deal with last season, there were a couple of players that played well beyond expectations. Saddiq Bey came right out the gate and showed he belonged with his high basketball IQ, his poise, and his three-point shooting. He was on track to break the NBA record for the most three-pointers by a rookie, but it wasn't meant to be with the regular season being only 72 games. Bey finished the season hitting 175 threes on 38% shooting, trailing only Donovan Mitchell and Damian Lillard in the record books. Not bad for the 19th overall pick. Isaiah Stewart meanwhile took a bit longer to establish himself on the court, but once he got comfortable, it was impossible not to notice all the things he did to help the team. He rebounded, he blocked shots, he shot efficiently, and his energy and hustle was infectious. Stewart's 86 blocks on the season ranked 5th all-time among the franchise and were the most by a rookie since Andre Drummond blocked 95 shots in 2013. As the season progressed and Stewart got more comfortable, he started shooting three-pointers, which is definitely something you never wanted to see Drummond do. He showed he was capable of hitting outside shots on a regular basis, and that added element to his game will make him an all-around player. He shot 55% from the floor and 33% from three, and he also hit 70% of his free throws and played great team and individual defense. Stewart led the draft class in total win shares. After playing a huge role as the complementary player for the loaded Denver Nuggets, Jerami Grant transitioned to being the #1 scoring option on this team. Ideally, you would rather see him as a second or third option, but he took the challenge in stride. Grant averaged 22 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists per game. Those are all-star numbers, but with the lack of wins for this team, there was no way he was going to get selected. With Cunningham coming in and being that franchise player, Grant can play the sidekick role. Grant's value really shows when he's not the focus of the offense, in my opinion. His evolution came out of nowhere. He developed into a defensive force who could space the floor on offense by feeding off better players around him. His handle has gotten better, and he's more comfortable creating offense off the dribble. But with the increased burden on offense, his defense wasn't as great as it was in his last year with the Nuggets. That's part of the reason why I think his value is much higher if he doesn't have the added responsibility of being the #1 option. Players like Corey Joseph and newly acquired Kelly Olynyk will bring a much needed veteran presence to this young team. Joseph has been a big help for the younger players, especially Killian Hayes. He played for Dwayne Casey for 2 seasons during his time in Toronto. From his days in San Antonio, Joseph has always been a reliable role player that you can depend on to give you quality minutes. Since the trade, Joseph has averaged career highs in points and assists. He made 50% of his shots from the field and 37% from three. That kind of efficiency, playmaking, and leadership needs to be in the starting lineup. You could go with Hamidou Diallo for the starting 2-guard spot, but in my opinion, this team would benefit more with Joseph in the starting lineup. Josh Jackson will never live up to his top 5 selection in the draft, but he has somewhat revitalized his career when it looked like it was over. Detroit gave the former 4th overall pick a chance to play off the bench, and Jackson took that opportunity and showed great success. He averaged 13 points, 4 rebounds, and 10 assists a game last season, which correlated to him having a career year. The way Jackson has played last season has earned him another contract. There are plenty of reasons to be excited about this team if you're a Pistons fan. Cade Cunningham has a chance to bring the franchise back to relevancy, and they have a lot of young and ascending players like Saddiq Bey and Isaiah Stewart that they could have a team competing for the playoffs sometime in the future. But this team is not close, not even a little bit. I have the Pistons finishing in 14th place with a 22-60 record. It's still likely going to be a rough season for the Pistons as they enter year 2 of the rebuild. The only significant achievement the Pistons will most likely have is Cade Cunningham becoming the Rookie of the Year. This team is simply not ready to compete and win games on a regular basis just yet.